Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump, Fox News contributor, author of the very good book, Here's the Deal. Hi, Kellyanne.
Hello,
welcome
Larry.
back.
That was something.
He's going after the suburban women's vote. Let's talk about that.
Yes, and the Democrats think that all we all care about is abortion. They speak to us from the waist down only. Donald Trump speaks to us from the waist up. That's where our eyes, ears, hearts, mouths, and brains are. He wants to appeal to suburban women in full. They're worried about kitchen table economics. They're worried about a secure future for their families. They're also worried about security and safety now. It is about crime. It's also about the southern border. All of a sudden, the crisis at the southern border is in everybody's backyard. That's why you see a rising concern. Also, they seem to be paying attention to what's going on abroad. They know that Joe Biden has brought us to 2 wars. The big themes going into November are safety, affordability, security, affordability. Fairness is a big one. President Trump today talked about what was fair and unfair. That's the way people look at men and women's sports. It's the way they look at the tax code. It's the way they look at 8 million people coming here illegally. They want to know that the government is treating everybody fairly. That doesn't mean equal. It doesn't mean equity nonsense, equality of outcomes. It means equality of opportunity.
I think people hate the woke stuff. I mean,
it's really swinging back.
And they hate the woke stuff around Easter. I don't want to go down that path, but you know what I'm talking about.
It's swinging back now, isn't it?
It's so phony.
And Larry, you said something important. You said Biden's ignoring the crime wave. I'll go one step further. I think he helped to create it. Why? Defund the police in the summer of 2020 is now coming home to roost. You see these articles out of Austin, Texas, for example. In Austin, they proudly defunded the police. They moved over $100 million away from policing into, quote, public safety. Itself an oxymoron. The Austin City Council member there at the time celebrating it is now the member of Congress representing the area. You have early retirements among the police force, resignations, and you have people not being able to get their 911 calls processed in time. There have been articles about this. So I think all the shenanigans from 2020 are hurting the Democrats now. Also, on the border, President Trump is right to tell Cindy Adams of the New York Post, this will be my first priority. It happens to be the first priority of people in the swing states. It's the 9th year since Donald Trump elevated the border into the national consciousness and said, this will be one of my priorities. He did that to international ridicule and derision. And now he has many non-Trump voters saying, I agree with you. I'm going to vote for you.
By the way, we're glad Cindy Adams has gotten herself well and back into
Yes,
circulation.
absolutely.
But Kellyanne, another one is Trump's doing surprisingly well among young people.
Yes.
And Biden and his crew can't stand that. They're going berserk over that because they're doing voter registration for young people who may be voting for Trump. What do you make of that?
Yes, a big Washington Post article today talking about how the Democrats are conflicted. They're arguing amongst themselves whether they actually want to continue to register people who are non-registered by party, because that used to favor the Democrats by 20 points and now favors them by 2 points. The difference? Donald J. Trump. Many of the young people and the non-registered folks are going to say that they're going to vote for him. Why? He's up about 15 points from the 33% that he got among young people in 2020, in large part because of the economy, safety. If you're a young person, you look at Joe Biden, in addition to feeling you have nothing in common with him, in addition to seeing his ability, acuity, and agility decline, you look at his policies and you're saying, this guy thinks he can buy me off by forgiving student loans.
Right.
When am I going to afford my first home?
Not working.
It's not working.
Right.
When am I going to afford my first home? What is he doing? And they'll also tell you, Larry, education is a top issue, and it's the Democrats. The only time they got excited about education was to mask up all of us and keep us on our kitchen tables, not in our classrooms. So there are many reasons that the young people are not, I think, going to Biden. A lot of them are going to RFK Jr. We look at the 5-way ballot, 5 ways: RFK Jr., Jill Stein, Cornel West, Trump, and Biden. In the Fox poll, Trump's numbers improve in each of the 6 swing states and nationally because RFK Jr. is there to take votes away from Biden. And RFK Jr. on our own Fox News channel this morning, and Fox and Friends, said that Joe Biden is a worse threat than Donald Trump.
Can we run? I know we were going to play that clip later. Can we run that clip right now for Kellyanne? Hang on one second. Here it comes. Ace production stuff. Unbelievable team. Here it comes. Here it comes. It's coming. 1 sec.
Yeah, ta-da, here it comes.
Oh, don't have it. All right.
Well, that's what he said. And he's got family members saying they're going to vote against him. But what they need to realize is that young people are going to go to RFK Jr. for some reasons, but they're also going over to President Trump. And Larry, young people, Hispanics, African Americans, women. I just mentioned 4 groups that Trump is doing better than he did in 2020. He doesn't have to get a majority of any of them and still win. He has to get
just peeling off.
Just peel them off.
Voters.
And Biden, you tell me one thing Biden's doing that's going to get them all back.
How's his messaging now?
Biden?
You're a professional. No,
Biden,
Trump.
Trump's is excellent because he talks about policies.
I'm saying he's hanging tough. I'm saying it's a policy
People want a fighter. Fighter doesn't mean fight with each other. Fighter means fighting on behalf of the people. That's what they want, and they know that he is that way. And when they see him in the courtrooms, they think that he is fighting injustice. They think that he's fighting for them as well. That's backfired because now more people think that those cases are politically motivated than legally grounded. That has turned around. But I think it's what I've said from the beginning. I need to keep repeating it. Even if you're offended by this Truth Social or that tone or that, you're going to vote according to what affects you, not what offends you. That's what we do as Americans. We vote according to our own self-interest. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you vote for what affects you and your family most?
How's Biden's messaging? I'm
terrible,
not sure
stale.
Right. I don't
get it at all.
His message.
I don't get it at all. He has semi-smart people around him, a few of them. But I think the whole prospect of Donald Trump coming back and having a second term makes otherwise reasonable, intelligent, sane people crazy to the point where they say and do nutty things. I don't understand their messaging. I don't understand why they won't just do something on the border to show that they're trying. Instead, here's what they're doing. You talked about people working hard, the party of workers. I'll go you one better, Larry. What Biden is doing at the border now is they're letting people in illegally. But when you arrive, the hardworking people of America see that those taking the easy route, they come here, they're allowed to stay. They are flying here free of charge. Then when they arrive, they're getting clothing, housing, cell phones, cash. This is not just wrong and unfair, but people look and they say, hold on, I'm working super hard, and they're taking the easy way, and you're rewarding that. And sure, some people come here because they are being persecuted or assaulted, but that's not what we see on the border now. We see a lot of men rushing the fences.
These are young, able-bodied men carrying suitcases.
We don't know who they are, where they are, what they're doing.
They're arresting people from China. I mean, nobody knows about the terrorist component. I got to get out of here. But basically, you're saying Trump's on message. I agree with that, but you're the expert.
He's on message. I prefer more insights, fewer insults, but he's on message. He's projecting strength and determination. He's being very, very specific and solution-oriented about what his first day agenda will be.
Trump tough.
I'll tell you what, AFPI's got over 200 executive orders ready to go.
Trump tough.
Trump tough. We like it.
I love that.
America likes it.
Best
Biden weak.
Best in the business. Thank you very much.
Biden brittle. Trump tough.